Hello, it's Tuesday. It is 12:30 and that means it's time for First Chapter Fun. Now I hope I'm live on Facebook. It looks like I am. I know I am on Instagram. So, looks like Facebook might be throwing a wobbly. I don't know what's going on. Facebook is always such a funny beast. Seems to be working though, and I see that I'm working, I think. Things are working on Instagram because I see Kat, I see Caitlin, I see Jen Jumba, and I see Hank on Facebook. So all is well, all is working. It is Tuesday, November the what now? The 59 millionth day of the year, November the 10th at 12:30 p.m. and that means it is time for our wonderful, wonderful First Chapter Fun. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? I see Glennie is joining. Good morning. And Susan and Jamie, our keeper of the list. Jamie Harrigan has made this lovely, wonderful list, the full list of every single read that we have had on First Chapter Fun, and you'll find that on Goodreads. If you are on Facebook too, then in the announcements there's also a list actually with all of the links to all of the videos for all of the reads, all of the 105, because today is episode 106 if you can believe it. Hi Carol, hi Sarah, I have lots of people, Liz as well, so many people that have joined. This is absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much for being here. It is a lovely day here today. The sun is shining. I think it's supposed to be about 20 degrees, whatever that is in Fahrenheit. I don't know, warm, very warm for November. So I'm going to bunk off, as we call it, skive off, and do some work after First Chapter Fun. And then I'm going to go out for a walk because I know that this might be the very last 20 degree day of the year. This is not normal, and I'm gonna try and soak up all that sunshine with SPF 50, of course, because I burn. Sure, you didn't really need to know that, but there you go. So if this is the first time that you have joined First Chapter Fun, this is the place on Instagram at First Chapter Fun and in the Facebook group First Chapter Fun, where Hank, Philippi, Ryan and I read Mary McKinnon read the first chapter of a different book every Tuesday and Thursday at 12:30 p.m. and this has been going on since March the 17th. And here we are, and we have reads, we are booking reads into next year, so it's absolutely wonderful. We have lots and lots and lots of books to bring you. If I get booted out from one of the platforms, which does happen, sometimes Facebook throws a wobbly or Instagram cuts me off, I will come back, I will continue on the platform that has allowed me to speak, and I will return to the one that booted me out and start the recording again. Last week we had no internet on Tuesday, we had no Wi-Fi, we had nothing, so that made for an interesting day. But the wonderful Hank stepped in and saved the day by taking over the read on Tuesday, so that worked out perfectly fine. So what do we have in store for you today? And how are you? I see there are lots of comments on Facebook. They're not scrolling down. Here we go. Susan says, Carleen and I are watching from drizzly Georgia. Southern Georgia? SO Georgia? Must mean Southern Georgia, I guess. Oh, wonderful. So that's it's so lovely. Oh, Catherine says, very windy here in Illinois. And we also have a thunderstorm watch today. Oh, wow. Windy in Western Kentucky too, says Kathy Boone. Goodness, well, I seem to have stolen all of the good weather from you. What can I say? I'm sure you'll get your revenge when we have 3 feet of snow and you have sunshine. So let me tell you about today's book. And then I have another couple of things. And this is one of the most beautiful covers I've seen, I think, and I see a lot of them, but look at that. Opium and Absinthe by Lydia Kang. This is what we're reading from today. I can't wait. It's just lovely. It is as beautiful on the inside as it is on the outside. So I'm going to tell you about that one just coming up. And Lydia is with us. I just spotted Lydia on Facebook. Let me see if I can see her. Yes, she's also on Instagram. Always daunting to have and lovely. And of course, we want the authors to join, and we only ever read from books where the authors and their publishers have given us permission to do so. But we also don't want to mess it up. So I always get a bit nervous. I see the author, I think, oh no, because we are not, Hank and I, we are not professional audiobook narrators. That's not what we do. We do this for fun, but still, you still don't want to mess it up. So before I get to Lydia's book, I want to share two things with you. This is a book that publishes today. She Lies Closed by Sharon Doering, and we read from this one on First Chapter Fun way back in April. It was April the 8th, and Sharon's pub date, because of COVID, like so many, got pushed back. So this one you will find in our archive. They're all saved. April the 8th, episode I don't know what, but you will find it. If you go to the announcements on Facebook, you'll find the list. Just scroll down and do a search for Sharon Doering and you will find her. And also, of course, a massive shout out to Ed Amer, whose book They're Gone publishes today as well. And I'll tell you a bit more about this one at the end of the episode. But for now, there we go. This is the book we're reading from, Opium and Absinthe by Lydia Kang. So let me introduce you to Lydia and also say that there is a giveaway for the book. So make sure you leave a comment on Facebook or on Instagram. Now, the veterans, the regulars will know that the comments on Instagram disappear. It's an Instagram thing. Come on, Instagram, fix it. They disappear once we finish the broadcast, the live, and move the video over or save the video to our IGTV. So make sure you comment now so Lydia will be able to pick a winner from one or the other. I'm so excited, Lydia, that you're here. Thank you very, very much for letting us read from your wonderful book and introduce this brilliant book to new to you readers, and you will be new to a new to them author. And that is what First Chapter Fun is all about: discovering new books and feeding your TBR list, your to be read list, a constant drip of wonderful novels. And you never have to worry about what you're going to read ever again, because we've got you covered. So, glasses, that would be a good idea so I can see, and I will introduce you to Lydia Kang. Lydia Kang is a practicing physician who caught the writing bug several years ago and does not want the cure. Thank you very much. She's also the author of A Beautiful Poison, The Impossible Girl, Quackery, A Brief History of the Worst Ways to Cure Everything, co-written with Nate Pedersen, and the young adult novels Control, Catalyst, Toxic, and The November Girl. She's read the Little House on the Prairie books 100 times and has come to realise that baking, sewing, gardening, crocheting, and all the hobbies she's wasted time on has come in very handy during the pandemic. She has 3 kids, 2 dogs, and has not binge-watched anything in a long time because the house is a mess and she has too many writing deadlines. So that is Lydia, and I said this last week when I read from Isabella Maldonado's The Cipher. I'm always so impressed by the bios of authors. And Lydia has written, again, her 11th book. It's your 11th book that comes out next year, I believe. And she's a practicing physician, and she has 3 kids, and she has 2 dogs, and I don't know how she does it. So always wildly impressed by the backgrounds of our authors, and it's such a treat and such a pleasure to introduce you to them. It's just wonderful. So this is the book I'm reading from today, Opium and Absinthe, historical mystery with a bit of a vampire twist. Or is it a vampire? I don't know. I'm not sure. Oh, thank you, Lydia. She just said that I have a nice accent. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. All right, so let me read you the back cover copy of Opium and Absinthe. From the best-selling author of A Beautiful Poison comes another spellbinding historical novel full of intrigue, occult mystery, and unexpected twists. New York City, 1899. Tilly Pembroke's sister lies dead, her body drained of blood, and with 2 puncture wounds on her neck. Bram Stoker's new novel, Dracula, has just been published, and Tilly's imagination leaps to the impossible. The murderer is a vampire. But it can't be, can it? A ravenous reader and researcher, Tilly has something of an addiction to truth, and she won't rest until she unravels the mystery of her sister's death. Unfortunately, Tilly's addicted to more than just truth. To ease the pain from a recent injury, she's taking more and more laudanum, and some in her immediate circle are happy to keep her well supplied. That's laudanum, actually. That's me circling it and trying to pronounce it properly. Laudanum, and some in her immediate circle are happy to keep her well supplied. Tilly can't bring herself to believe vampires exist, but with the hysteria surrounding her sister's death, the continued vampiric slayings, and the opium swirling through her body, it's becoming increasingly difficult for a girl who relies on facts and figures to know what's real, or whether she can trust those closest to her. Doesn't that sound brilliant? And it is! Opium and Absinthe with the most gorgeous colour. I love green. It's absolutely beautiful. Look, just look with those poppies, that splash of red. Looks absolutely brilliant. So you will find Lydia. Don't forget to go and follow her. Don't do it right now, but once we're done, you'll find Lydia on Facebook, Author Lydia Kang, on Instagram, Lydia Kang, that's K-A-N-G, Twitter, Lydia Y Kang, and her website is dead simple, where you'll find all the information, Lydia Kang. And I forgot to mention that Opium and Absinthe published on July the 1st this year, so you can get your sticky mitts, aka your hands, on it right now. Not right now, once we're done. All right. So let me, Beth says Little House books are my absolutely favourite childhood books. I should reread them. I used to watch that on TV. Watched it in Switzerland actually when I grew up. But I think we used to play it, my sister and I. I'm pretty sure we did, which is kind of funny. Lydia says I don't watch Netflix. I don't. We must be the only people. Apparently in North America who don't have Netflix. I don't have Netflix either. We have other stuff, but I'm too busy reading and writing at the moment to try and fit in, Netflix and HBO and all the rest of it. And Game of Thrones finished, so, the world is over anyway. Just kidding. There's other stuff. All right, enough of the ado. You don't want the ado. You want the book. Stay tuned. Opium and Absinthe by Lydia Kang. And this is chapter 1. It starts with a quote. I am all in a sea of wonders. I doubt, I fear, I think strange things, which I dare not confess to my own soul. Jonathan Harker. June 8th, 1899. Dear Miss Nellie Bly, I'm not sure how to best address you. Miss Bly, by your pen name, Mrs. Seaman, Mrs. Elizabeth Cochrane Seaman, Mrs. Bly? Well, I shan't bother you endlessly about your name. I'm writing to let you know how much I enjoy your newspaper articles, though lately I have not seen very many. I especially enjoyed the one you wrote about elephants. I imagine they were rather malodorous. Please write back and let me know how badly they smelled. You left that out of the article, and I should like to know. I cannot find the information at the Lenox Library. A devoted reader, Miss Tilly Pembroke. It is better to be a coward than a corpse. The phrase was a cacophonous jingle in Tilly Pembroke's mind. She huffed uncomfortably and swiped at the veil, irritating the edge of her cheek. Everything was conspiring against her today. Coward, corpse, coward, corpse. Tilly, hurry! We're leaving soon. Dorothy Harriman called from outside the stable. She was already on her mount, hat and veil perfectly in place, a swirl of chestnut hair at the nape of her neck. Her ebony mare was a glossy beauty in the sunlight. Dorothy always did everything perfectly, even nagged her friend with precision. The clean scent of soil and moist greenery beckoned to Tilly. Here on Long Island, the sky was unmarred by buildings and church spires. The humidity of the June day was rising in a mist. Grand oak and maple trees arched around the riders gathering for the hunt. Of course, Tilly would be the last rider to mount, and her riding habit didn't fit quite right, because she had torn hers yesterday and now wore her mother's old one. This heavy Melton fabric smothered her. Her favourite antelope gloves had been misplaced by her maid, and the gold pin on her muslin cravat was slightly bent from the last time she'd fallen off her horse. Only a few feet away, a barn cat tended a litter of new kittens. Upon seeing Tilly's lingering gaze, she immediately picked up one kitten in her jaws and carried it elsewhere for some quiet nursing. How was it that the cat didn't harm her babies with those teeth? How was it that the milk came only when the kittens needed it, instead of constantly pouring forth from her belly like a full watering can? Tilly batted away the questions. She was 18 now. She no longer had the luxury of her permissive childhood to pore over books and endlessly question the gardener, the cook, her sister, and all the maids in order to loosen the stewing questions that constantly simmered in her head. She wondered if Nellie Bly, the famous journalist, would write her back. The elephant odour question was still fixed in her mind. Perhaps they smelled like horses.
Miss Matilda, please pay more attention to your mount than the barn cat.
Yes, Roderick, Tilly replied with a sigh. Her groom was the age her father would have been, if he still lived. Roderick's teeth were brown from tobacco stains, and he smelled perpetually of old hay and horse sweat, a comforting scent. She readied to mount Queenie, a somewhat vicious thoroughbred that belonged to her sister. Tilly would never have dreamt of taking her, but her mother no longer rode and suffered to pay for only 2 horses here on Long Island. Tilly's horse was resting in her stall, nursing a bruised hoof that may or may not have been Tilly's fault.
You ought to stop riding, Miss Matilda, Roderick continued. You've fallen once already this season, and you hardly come here to practice.
That's because Lucy is always taking my best cane, and has the best horse, and the best teacher, Tilly said, under her breath. Roderick heard her well enough.
But I've taught you both, he protested.
She blushed. Yes, and yet she's so much better.
She listens to me, Miss Matilda, instead of watching the anthills for an hour.
He didn't need to say more. Tilly was already nervous to ride, and she hadn't even climbed on the mare. But today she must, because Dorothy was here, and Tilly had heard a rumour. Dorothy had been overheard to say, "A rock could ride a horse better than Tilly Pembroke." Oh, but she wished Lucy were here. Older by 3 years, Lucy looked like she belonged in a pink coat like the other riders. Tilly was merely the mirage of one. It was Lucy who would buffer Tilly from their family's disappointment when she made occasional gaffes in public, like asking the Cortlands' butler how their new toilet imported from France worked. 3 months ago, she had vomited in front of Mrs. Astor at Lucy's engagement party because she'd wondered if consuming an enormous quantity of cake would absorb the champagne like a sponge. Lucy told everyone that it was the pastry chef's fault, a bad recipe with too many wine-soaked cherries. Everyone was soothed, except the pastry chef, for whom Lucy found another position without a mention of the incident. At her coming-out party the year before, Tilly disappeared to the library to research the origins of the word fuliginous after her great-uncle had used it. then became distracted by a picture of a collared fruit bat before losing herself completely in the F's. It wasn't the first time she'd been utterly consumed by the pages of Webster's International Dictionary. Lucy had lessened the embarrassment by explaining that her sister was quite modest and needed time to recover from all the attention. Lucy, with her large brown eyes, her perfect pale gold hair piled in loose curls upon her head, her swan's neck, was the very image of a Gibson girl. And she had the perfect fiancé too, James Cutter, whose bloodline extended to the Dutch in the 1600s, like the Pembrokes. In a city where the new-moneyed Rockefellers and Vanderbilt put up vulgar, showy mansions, drawing their wealth from disgraceful sources like the railroad, the marriage between Lucy Pembroke and James Cutter would be one for the ages, perhaps one of the last. It would be, as everyone murmured, the greatest New York wedding of the new millennium. James himself was here for the hunt, but he'd hardly ever paid more than a passing attention to his future sister-in-law. Lucy couldn't ride because she'd only recently recovered from a bout of typhus. She had of late been visiting the orphans at the Foundling Hospital a few avenues away from their mansion in Manhattan. Sweet Lucy was always looking to help those less fortunate than her. Tilly would tell her later all about the ride and how brilliantly it had gone. She would tell her how she had not gotten distracted by anything today. Roderick helped hoist her into the saddle. She hooked her right knee around the pommel, nestled her other knee under the leaping head, and fit her left foot into the single stirrup. The groom tightened the girths and balance strap, the latter to keep the saddle from sagging on the more burdened left side, and offered her the cane for her right hand.
"Your sandwich box is filled, and there's a flask of tea in there as well."
Tilly unbuckled the leather box, pulled out the linen-wrapped sliced cheese and lettuce sandwich, and gobbled half of it.
"But that is for during the hunt, miss."
"Oh, I'm sorry. I'm hungry when I'm nervous," Tilly said, delicately wiping her mouth with a handkerchief. She returned the rest of the sandwich to the box. The food helped, but her heart was quivering like a cold chicken jelly. There were several jumps today that demanded confidence. Roderick advised her as he led Queenie out of the stable.
"Be careful of the rabbit holes in the north paddock. Remember, a lady must keep a clear head when the fox breaks cover, and keep within sight of the hounds. And for God's sake, if you aren't perfectly certain you can make a jump, do not jump. It's better to be a coward than a corpse."
Coward? Corpse? Tilly inhaled as deeply as her corset would allow, a mere cupful of air. "I'm ready." No sooner had she said the words than Queenie rapidly entered a trot, wishing to catch up to the group of 12 riders ahead. Warm, wet air rose from the turf after the deep rainfall the day before, and it felt thick in Tilly's chest as she breathed. The oak and maple trees surrounding the barn seemed to curl, claw-like, toward their party. Dorothy, who'd been riding alongside a gentleman, slowed her horse, and together they brought up the rear of the company. The other riders, in their scarlet riding coats, shone like poppies against the greenery. Tilly's underarms were already swampy, and her drawers stuck to her thighs like wet paper. "They're going to the field just north of here," Dorothy said. "Yes." The less Tilly said, the less likely she would say something inappropriate. "We are greatly looking forward to your sister's wedding. Only one more month. Have you seen her wedding gown yet? Did she order it from Paris, like Eleanor Vanderveer did?" Dorothy was dangerously close to reaching old maid status. At the mention of weddings, her eyes widened with hunger. Despite Dorothy's having a shoddyite father who gathered his money from shipping, Tilly liked her. Dorothy was equally friendly with Tilly and Lucy, whereas most people simply ignored Tilly. I don't know. Tilly tried to move the skirt so it didn't bunch on her lap. It's silk and lace. She knew all about the extinction of Stella's sea cow in 1768. Nothing about lace. Of course, but what kind of silk and lace? We're falling behind, Tilly said. She kicked her left boot against Queenie's side and pressed her cane into the animal's right flank. Queenie ignited at the suggestion and reared into a gallop. No! Whoa! Whoa! Queenie, slow down! Yelped Tilly as she swiftly surpassed 2, then 3, then 5 riders. They were already slowing in a line to jump a short stone fence into the next field. Tilly pulled harder on the reins, then gathered them again when her gloves loosened in the fingertips. The cane fell from her right hand. Feeling pressure only from the left side of her saddle now, Queenie abruptly turned in the opposite direction and cut in front of the stone fence past the entire company of riders. "Stop!" Tilly yelled. Behind her, James called to Tilly to slow, and she heard sounds of dismay from other riders, but Queenie went even faster. An old, unkempt stone fence stood before them. There wasn't time to turn. The horse leaped up, but Tilly had forgotten to give Queenie her head and held the reins tightly. Confused, Queenie jumped too low. Her front hoofs went into a dip in the ground unseen beneath a cluster of raspberry brambles, and Tilly went flying. That was part of the first chapter of the wonderful Opium and Absinthe by Lydia Kang. Isn't that a gorgeous cover? And I told you it was great. I told you. And it's available now because it published on July the 1st. So you can get your hands on it, not right now, in a few minutes once we're done this episode. So I hope you enjoyed it. Lydia says, "This is why I don't ride horses." You know, I've ridden a few times, but the last time I went, it scared the bejesus out of me because I was on a big horse. I think they gave me the biggest one, and it reared up, and I just managed, and I'm by no means an expert at all, but I managed to keep it just to hold on tight and get it to stop. And I had actually planned on going with the kids, and I thought, I'm just not, because that horse would just, with one of the kids, this was years ago, they were still little, that horse would just have gone. And you don't want to fall off a horse, that's for sure. So I have a lot of respect for people who ride and for the horses, that's for sure. I really hope you enjoyed that chapter. I see lots of comments. Lydia, she says, my sister rides, but is that a 1900 side saddle? Oh, in 1900, side saddle was totally not in anyone's wheelhouse that I knew. Side saddle, seriously, in a big, long, bunchy dress. My goodness, I mean, that's just crazy. Yeah. Irene just says, OMG, now I have to get this one. Yes, of course you do. Lilia says, I can't wait to read more. You can, definitely, because this is available now. Diane says, leaving us hanging again. I'm so sorry. Yes, I know, we have to, because we try and keep this to about half an hour. And let me see, lots and lots of comments as well on Instagram. It's just so lovely that people keep tuning into First Chapter Fun, and we can continue to do this. And this is, of course, always thanks to the author, Lydia, in this instance, and her publisher, which is Lake Union. I knew Lake House was wrong. That's the name of a book and a movie, Lake Union. So once again, that was Opium and Absinthe by Lydia Kang, and you can get your hands on this right now. And let me tell you about Thursday's read. I mentioned it a little bit before. They're Gone by Ed Amer, who also writes as E.A. Bars. This is what we have coming up on Thursday, and look what I got. Let me see if I can wake this up quickly enough. At midnight, it's going to take forever now, I should have done this before, at midnight on my Kindle. It's right there. It's ready for me to read. I'm going to go out for a walk this afternoon. I'm listening to an Audible original called Nut Jobs, and it's all about nut heists in California, of which I had no clue, and which sounds as strange yet fascinating as it is. All right, so once again, Opium and Absinthe was today's episode. Thank you, Lydia, for letting us read for you. And on Thursday at 12:30 p.m, we'll be reading from Ed Amers or E8 Bars, They're Gone. And we hope that you will join us then. So that's it for today. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in. Tell your friends, your family about First Chapter Fun, and that way we keep having more and more members who join. And don't forget, if this is your first time and you've missed any chapters, you can always go back to our archive on IGTV, just in the post, scroll down, and on Facebook and in the videos, new Facebook, it's under media videos, you'll find all of the episodes. There we go. So have a lovely rest of the day, and I hope that we'll see you on Thursday. And as always, until then, please stay safe, stay kind, and we'll see you on Thursday. Thank you for watching.